Jai Gurudev and welcome and thank you both for joining us today. We are here to explore the profound conversation between Lord Ram and King Dashrath as described in the Ramayana when Ram is about to leave for his 14-year exile. Let's start with understanding the significance of this moment. Could you, as an officer of the Vedic Dharma Sansthan, provide us with some context from the text? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for having me. This scene is one of the most poignant moments in the Ramayana. It encapsulates deep emotions of duty, sacrifice, and righteousness. When Queen Kekai asks King Dashrath to send Lord Ram into exile as one of the boons she was granted, the king is devastated. The conversation between Lord Ram and Dashrath highlights the conflict between a father's love and the duty of a king. Despite Dashrath's intense grief, Lord Ram remains calm and composed, illustrating his unwavering commitment to dharma or righteousness. The Ramayana narrates this scene to show how Ram embodies the ideal virtues of obedience and humility, even in the face of tremendous personal loss. It's a very emotional moment indeed. From the perspective of the Art of Living teachings, how do you view Lord Ram's calm acceptance of his exile? In the Art of Living, we emphasize that Lord Ram's actions during this period are a reflection of his deep connection with his inner self and his understanding of Dharma. His Holiness Gurudev Shishi Ravi Shankar Ji often speaks about how true strength comes from within, and Lord Ram is a perfect example of this. Despite the injustices done to him, Lord Ram remains balanced. He does not get angry or resentful, even though the situation is heartbreaking. This mental equanimity is key to inner peace and is something we can all cultivate through practices like Sudarshan Kriya and meditation. These techniques help us remain centered in the face of challenges, much like how Lord Ram remained centered in his Dharma. That's a profound way to look at it. Can we delve deeper into the conversation between Ram and Dashrath? What were Dashrath's feelings as he realized the inevitability of Ram's exile, and how did Ram respond? King Dashrath's emotions were overwhelming. He tried to dissuade Ram from going into exile, pleading with him to stay. The king even contemplated breaking his promise to Kekai, but Ram gently reminded him of the importance of keeping one's word. Ram says that a king's duty is to uphold the truth and fulfill his promises, no matter how difficult it might be. Lord Ram's words during this conversation teach us that honoring commitments is a core part of one's character. Dashrath, however, is torn between his role as a king and his love as a father, which is a central tension in this scene. Ram's calm demeanor during this time shows the power of accepting life as it unfolds. In our teachings, we often highlight the importance of acceptance. Resisting a situation only increases suffering, but when you accept things as they are, like Rama did, you can face even the most challenging circumstances with grace. Ram didn't blame anyone, he didn't express anger towards Kekai or feel victimized. Instead, he trusted in the divine order and the unfolding of events. This faith and acceptance are central to leading a life of peace and strength. That acceptance is certainly a valuable lesson for all of us. Can you explain how this moment impacts the larger story of the Ramayana, particularly with regards to Dharma? This moment sets the stage for the rest of the Ramayana. Ram's adherence to Dharma, even when it causes personal pain, elevates him as the ideal king, son, and human being. His acceptance of the exile is not just about obedience to his father, but a larger acceptance of his role in the cosmic plan. The Ramayana is full of such moments where individuals are tested, and it is their choices that shape their destinies. Rama's choice to accept his exile with dignity and grace reflects his higher understanding of Dharma, where personal desires are secondary to the larger good. From the Art of Living perspective, this scene shows us how to remain undisturbed even in adversity. It's a practical example of how we can apply spiritual wisdom in our daily lives. When we are faced with challenges like Ram was, we often focus on what we have lost, but Ram teaches us to focus on what we can give. In his case, he gave peace to his father by accepting his exile. He also gave his people an example of how to live a life of integrity and balance. In our day to day lives, through spiritual practices, we can cultivate this same balance, which helps us contribute positively to society, no matter what difficulties which we face. That's a beautiful interpretation. Going back to the historical and textual sources, are there any specific verses or research papers that offer further insight into the significance of this moment? Oh, absolutely. The Ayodhya Kand of the Ramayana is where this conversation takes place, and there are many scholarly works analyzing this portion. Several published research papers have focused on the ethical and psychological aspects of this scene. For instance, Studies have examined the tension between personal ethics, Ram's obedience to his father, and public responsibility, his duty as a future king. These papers also explore how this scene sets the foundation for Ram's journey of self discovery and his role as the upholder of Dharma. In addition, books like the Ramayana or Valmiki provide in depth commentary on the emotions and significance of this moment. Some contemporary scholars have also looked at how this scene can be interpreted in modern terms, where individuals face moral dilemmas between personal and professional obligations. This conversation opens up so many layers of understanding as we continue to explore what can modern readers take away from this scene, and how do you both think Lord Rams's example applies to contemporary life. In today's fast-paced world, many of us are constantly faced with decisions that challenges our values. Lord Rams's example teaches us that sticking to our principles, even when it is hard, brings long-term fulfillment. In modern life, we often feel pressure to compromise on our values for quick gains or ease, but Ram's story shows that true strength comes from inner clarity and adherence to dharma. Practices like yoga, pranayama, and meditation help us strengthen this inner clarity so that we can make more decisions with wisdom, not impulsivity. Exactly, Ram's life is a guide for anyone who wants to live a life of integrity. His ability to maintain calm, follow dharma, and respect his father's word, even in difficult circumstances, serves as an inspiration for anyone facing moral challenges today. This moment between Ram and Dashrath speaks to the timeless values of truth, duty, and compassion, values that are just as relevant now as they were in ancient times. Thank you both for sharing such rich insights today. Lord Ram's conversation with King Dashrath before his exile is clearly a powerful lesson in duty, acceptance, and resilience. I look forward to continuing our exploration of such themes in future discussions. Jai Gurudev and welcome, and thank you both for joining us today. We are here to explore a deeply emotional and significant moment in the Ramayana, the conversation between Lord Ram and King Dashrath when Ram is about to leave for his 14-year exile. This moment is charged with emotion and meaning. To begin, could you please provide some background of this crucial scene? Jai Gurudev, and thank you for the opportunity to discuss this pivotal moment. The scene in question comes from Ayodhya Kand of Valmiki's Ramayana, when Queen Kekai invokes her boons and demands that Ram be sent into exile for 14 years, while her son Bharat is crowned the king. The conversation between Ram and his father, King Dashrath, is heart wrenching because Dashrath is torn between his love for his son and the obligation to honor his word to Kekai. Rama, however, without hesitation accepts his faith, offering his father solace in the process. This scene underscores the values of duty or dharma, obedience, and sacrifice, which form the foundation of Lord Ram's character and the entire Ramayana. It's an emotional scene that strikes at the heart of familial duty and love. How does the art of living interpret Lord Ram's acceptance of exile, and what lessons can we draw from his attitude in the face of such a difficult situation? In the art of living, we emphasize the significance of maintaining equanimity in all situations, a quality Lord Ram embodies perfectly in the scene. Despite the injustices done to him, Ram remains calm, collected, and unwavering in his commitment to Dharma. This reflects a deep acceptance of life's challenges, something we all need to learn. His Holiness Gurudev Shishi Ravi Shankarji often teaches that resisting circumstances only increases our suffering, whereas acceptance leads to inner peace. Ramsa's composure and humility are shining examples of how to live by higher principles even when life takes an unexpected turn. From the spiritual perspective, Ramsa's behavior illustrates that real strength lies not in resisting the challenges of life, but in accepting them with grace. This acceptance doesn't imply passivity, but rather an active engagement with life, trusting in a higher order. His ability to maintain balance and move forward despite personal loss is something we cultivate through practices like Sudarshan Kriya, meditation, and mindfulness. That makes perfect sense, especially when thinking about how we face challenges in our own lives. Let's dive into the details of the conversation between Lord Ram and King Dashrath. What was the emotional atmosphere, and how did Ram comfort his father? Despite the dire circumstances, the moment is highly charged with emotion. King Dashrath is utterly heartbroken, as we can see in Valmiki's descriptions of his grief. The king pleads with Ram not to go, struggling with the thought of losing his beloved son. In one verse, Dashrath says, "How will I live without seeing you, my son? It is as if life is leaving my body." Ram, in contrast, remains composed and calm, exemplifying the ideal son who places his father's honor and duty above his own desires. He reassures his father, saying, "Do not grieve, father, it is my duty to fulfill your promise, and I accept this exile with joy. A promise must always be kept, and the honor of a lineage is more important than my personal happiness." Ram's words reflect his deep understanding of the concept of dharma, where personal discomfort must be set aside to uphold righteousness and truth. It seems that this scene is not just about familial duty, but also about setting a moral example. From your experience, how does this conversation between Ram and Dashrath relate to the teachings of the art of living about managing emotional pain and loss? Absolutely, this moment has much to teach us about emotional resilience and the power of dharma. In the art of living, we focus on understanding the transient nature of emotions and life situations. Lord Ram's calmness and grace in accepting his fate teaches that emotions, no matter how strong, should not dictate our actions. Through spiritual practices like breathing techniques and meditation, we learn to observe emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Ram's acceptance is a powerful lesson in emotional intelligence. By remaining centered, he not only alleviates his father's pain, but also provides a path for us to follow. When we experience pain or loss, instead of reacting with fear, anger, or sorrow, we can step back, accept the situation, and approach it with wisdom. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions, but managing them in a way that allows us to remain grounded and clear minded, just as Ram does here. That's such a valuable lesson. Ram's ability to remain grounded while his father is overcome with grief shows a rare level of maturity. Could you tell us more about how Dashrath's emotional turmoil reflects the human condition? King Dashrath's reaction is deeply human. His pain reflects the intense bond between a parent and a child. He is not only a king but also a father, and the thought of losing Ram shatters him. In this scene, we see the vulnerability of a man who has been placed in an impossible situation, choosing between his love for his son and his duty as a king who must honor his word. Valmiki describes Dashrath's helplessness vividly, showing him almost incapacitated by grief. Dashrath's suffering illustrates how even the greatest of kings and rulers can be subject to the frailties of human emotion. Despite his power and authority, he cannot escape the pain of separation from his beloved son. This teaches us that pain is universal, no matter our status or position. We are all subject to emotional turmoil. However, it is Ram's response that serves as the guiding light, showing us how to navigate this pain with wisdom and dharma. That brings us to an important point. Ram's sense of duty or dharma is at the heart of this scene. Can you explain how dharma guides his actions and what we can learn from this about living a life of integrity? Dharma is central to Lord Ram's character. In this moment, his commitment to Dharma is unwavering. Even when it means sacrificing his own comfort and happiness, he doesn't argue with his father or seek to avoid the exile. Instead, he sees the situation as an opportunity to uphold the highest values, truth, honor, and duty. In the art of living, Dharma is understood as living in alignment with our true nature and the universal laws that govern life. When we live by Dharma, we act in accordance with our highest self rather than being swayed by temporary emotions or desires. Ram's example teaches us that living with integrity might not always be easy, but it is the path to lasting fulfillment. Even in challenging times, maintaining our values brings inner strength and peace. That's a powerful message. As we draw this conversation to a close, can you share any specific teachings from the Ramayana or insights from research and literature that provide further depth to this moment between Ram and Dashrath? The Ramayana is full of wisdom that speaks to the complexities of human life. Scholars and researchers have analyzed the ethics of Ram's actions, and many have concluded that his commitment to Dharma is a rare virtue that makes him an ideal leader. Published works on the Ramayana, such as Dr. Robert P. Goldman's detailed analysis, delve into the philosophical underpinnings of Ram's decisions. In addition, modern interpretations explore how Ram's life provides guidance on leadership, emotional intelligence, and the importance or personal sacrifice for the greater good. From our perspective, Lord Ram's actions are a blueprint for living a life of purpose and peace. His grace in adversity, his unwavering commitment to truth, and his compassion for the others show us the way. The practices we teach at the Art of Living help us cultivate these same qualities: calmness, clarity, and compassion, so we too can lead a life of dharma and inner peace. Thank you both for these profound insights today. Lord Ram's conversation with Dashrath before his exile remains a timeless lesson in duty, sacrifice, and the power of acceptance. We appreciate your perspectives and how we can apply these teachings into the modern world. Jai Gurudev, and thank you. Thank you very much. Jai Gurudev, today we are exploring one of the most poignant and significant moments in the Ramayana, the conversation between Lord Ram and his father, King Dashrath. When Ram is about to leave for his 14-year exile, this moment is filled with emotions, a deep sense of dharma, duty, and the eternal conflict between love and obligation. Joining us are an officer from the Vedic Dharma Sansthan and an expert from the Art of Living Foundation to shed light on this crucial scene. To begin, can you provide some context regarding this moment in the Ramayana when Kekai asked for her boons to be granted and Ram is sent into exile? This moment is one of the most critical in Valmiki's Ramayana, particularly in the Ayodhya Kand. This event takes place after Queen Kekai reminds King Dashrath of two boons he had promised her years ago. Driven by her maid Mantra's manipulation, Kekai demands that Bharat be crowned king and that Ram be exiled to the forest for 14 years. King Dashrath is devastated by these demands. He never anticipated that Kekai would use her boons in such a way. The conversation between Ram and Dashrath when Ram accepts his exile is both tragic and noble. Dashrath is heartbroken, but Ram, in his divine calmness, accepts his fate without hesitation, fully aware of the importance of upholding dharma. This moment shows us the tension between human emotions and the ideal of duty. It sounds like a moment of immense emotional turmoil for Dashrath and a test of character for Rama. From the art of living perspective, how can we interpret Ram's acceptance of this seemingly harsh fate? In the art of living, we view Lord Ram's response as a perfect embodiment of emotional resilience and deep inner peace. Lord Ram exemplifies what His Holiness Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankarji calls the art of acceptance. Faced with the sudden and harsh news of his exile, Ram does not react with anger, sorrow, or rebellion. Instead, he accepts the situation as a divine will and the upholding of his father's word, even though it means a tremendous personal sacrifice. This reflects a principle that true strength lies in accepting life's challenges without losing our inner balance. In spiritual terms, Ram's response teaches us the value of equanimity. Life often presents us with difficult situations that we cannot control, but we can always choose how we respond. Ram's choice to calmly accept the exile shows his personal maturity and connection to Dharma. Through our practices such as Sudarshan Kriya and meditation, we cultivate the same inner calmness that allows us to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. Ram's equanimity is indeed remarkable. Could you tell us more about the conversation itself between Ram and Dashrath, and what are the key moments of dialogue that stand out in this exchange? The conversation between Ram and Dashrath is heart wrenching. When Dashrath realizes that he must honor Keki's demands, he is inconsolable. Valmiki describes Dashrath as being overwhelmed with grief and even compares him to a tree struck by lightning. He is torn between his duty as a king to fulfill the promise he made to Kekai and his deep love for Ram. When Dashrath hesitatingly informs Ram of the exile, Ram's response is extraordinary. He says, I shall gladly go to the forest, father. Do not grieve, for I see this as an opportunity to serve your word and fulfill the dharma of our family. This is the essence of Ram's character. He places the honor of his father's word and the welfare of his family's reputation above his personal desires. When Dashrath weeps, Ram remains calm, composed, and resolute. This scene captures the essence of filial devotion and duty. It's a moment filled with selflessness and duty. But for Dashrath, it must have been incredibly painful. How does his emotional turmoil reflect the human experience, and what lessons can we draw from it? Dashrath's emotions are a mirror of human frailty. As a father, he is heartbroken to send away his beloved son, and his sorrow is palpable. Despite his status as a mighty king, Dashrath is rendered powerless by his emotions. This speaks to the universal experience of loss and the difficulty of letting go, especially when it comes to our loved ones. In the art of living, we emphasize that while emotions are natural, we should not let them cloud our judgment or overpower us. Ram's calmness, in contrast to Dashrath's despair, teaches us that while life will always present difficult situations, we can choose how we handle them. Through spiritual practices, we learn to master our emotions rather than be mastered by them. Ram, with his inner strength, helps to uplift Dashrath in this moment by offering him comfort and reassurance that he will fulfill his duty without hesitation. That's a powerful interpretation of both Dashrath's emotional vulnerability and Ram's strength from a philosophical perspective. How does this scene highlight the concept of dharma? The concept of dharma is central to this entire episode. Ram's decision to accept the exile is a demonstration of his unwavering commitment to dharma. In the ancient Indian context, dharma is the guiding principle of righteous living, and it often involves making personal sacrifices for the greater good. Ram's adherence to Dharma supersedes his personal desires, and he does not even question the fairness of the situation. For Ram, the fulfilling his father's promise is paramount, because Dharma is about upholding truth and righteousness, even at the cost of personal suffering. Dashrath too is caught between his duty as a king and his role as a father. He must fulfill his promise to Keke, even though it breaks his heart to send Ram away. This highlights the tension between personal feelings and the higher duty one must serve, a common theme in the Ramayana. It's amazing how relevant these ancient concepts are even today. For modern readers, what lessons can we take from Ram's willingness to sacrifice from Dashrath's anguish? For modern readers, Ram's acceptance of his exile is a lesson in letting go of attachment and ego. Often we resist difficult situations because we are attached to our comfort zones or to certain outcomes. Ram shows us that by letting go of attachments, we can embrace life's challenges with grace. In life, many things are beyond our control, but what is within our control is our attitude towards them. This is one of the key teachings in the art of living. Acceptance of what is without resistance. This doesn't mean passivity, but rather an active engagement with life, trusting that there is a higher order. Dashrath's anguish, on the other hand, reminds us that emotional suffering is part of the human condition. No matter how powerful we are in the external world, emotions can overwhelm us. The solution is not to suppress emotions, but to develop the tools to manage them. This is why meditation and breathwork and Sudarshan Kriya are so important. They help us observe and process emotions without getting lost in them. These are profound insights. Before we conclude, are there any particular details or scholarly works that provide further depth to this moment, either from historical texts or modern interpretations? Oh, there have been numerous scholarly works on the Ramayana that delve into this moment. For instance, the Ramayana, translated by Robert P. Goldman, provides a deep analysis of this episode, exploring the philosophical and ethical dilemmas faced by both Ram and Dashrath. Additionally, many modern interpretations look at this scene through the lens of leadership and emotional intelligence, seeing Ram as the ideal leader who embodies the virtues of self-sacrifice, calmness, and duty. From our side, His Holiness Gurudev Shri Ravi Shankar Ji often refers to Lord Ram as an example of ideal living. His life teaches us the importance of living with integrity, compassion, and commitment to Dharma. By practicing meditation, we can develop these qualities within ourselves. Lord Ram's calm acceptance of the exile can be seen as a reflection of inner strength, something we can all aspire to cultivate in our daily lives. Thank you both for these enlightening perspectives. The conversation between Lord Ram and Dashrath is indeed a timeless lesson in duty, love, and the power of acceptance. We appreciate your insights into how we can apply these teachings to our modern lives. Jai Gurudev, thank you very much.